All right, guys, real quick before you say anything. Yes, I know it's stupid to mount the scope up with this A2 front sight in the way. The scope is only on here just for this video, and then she's coming right back off. All right, going to do a quick unbox and overview before we take her down to the range for the shoot and review. CVLIFE Eagle Talon 1-6x24 LPVO. Second focal plane, which just means your reticle remains the same as you zoom in and out, whereas a first focal plane reticle zooms in and out with magnification. This has a BDC reticle, so it has drop points. I don't see it anywhere in the paperwork here, but on the listing, it states calibrated. There's your little drop points there for 223/556 and a 308/762x51. Also not seeing a recommended 0 point in the instructions here, but again in the listing it shows zeroing for 200 yards with the center dot, and then that mark will be 300, 400, 500, and then 600 yards here. A 308 generally will have a different bullet trajectory than 556. However, depending on the loadings, you can get them they're very similar bullet drop, so it really depends on what you sight it in for, what caliber, and what loads you're going to compare there, whether or not these BDC marks will remain true for switching between calibers there. But they should be pretty close enough for a battle rifle, which is kind of what this LPVO scope is meant for, you know, close quarters to medium ranges. So while those marks may not be 100% precise for whatever caliber you're using and what load for that caliber you're using, should be close enough for impacting scale silhouette targets. So let's see what else we got here. This is a 30mm tube. It comes with your cantilever mount there. 1/2 inch MOA clicks at 100 yards. Eye relief's about 3 3/4 inch. And it does have the center dot illumination there. Let's pull it out here. Look at me struggling with rubber bands again. Don't know how they work. So it's nitrogen purged, fogproof, waterproof, shockproof, IPX7 waterproof certification. Got your little flip up caps here, okay, so you can protect the lens when you're not shooting it. This one has the exposed locking turrets. They have another model. The link will take you to the page that contains both. You can select on that page if you want one with the scope caps or if you want the exposed turrets like this. So they're exposed and lockable, so you'll pop them up like that to make your adjustment, and then when you're done, snap them back down the lock. Try the windage here. Okay, those work good. And these are resettable, re-zeroable. So you can see how they got the numbers on there for reference. So you can zero it to whatever you're going to zero it for. You got your little indicator mark there. Yep, you got one there for the elevation as well. So if after zeroing your rifle, you don't want it setting on some random number like that, you can bring this dial back to 0 without changing your 0. It'll stay dead on for whatever you sighted it in for. You just remove these caps here. Okay, then you can pull up on these a little, turn it back to 0 without the scope clicking, push it down, and then reinstall your center caps there. That way you can return it back to 0 without changing your 0. Should have a detachable throw lever in the box here somewhere, probably down in here. Comes with batteries as well for the illumination, little tools. There's the other battery. It only uses one at a time, so they send you an extra one. There's your detachable throw lever, so you can utilize it or not. Little screen wipe there. All right, there's with the throw lever installed there. So again, 1-6 magnification. Let's see which way we go here. It's a little stiff because she's new. They'll always start out a little stiffer and they'll wear in for you after you turn them a few times. Up to 6x magnification. And this does have a quick focus diopter under the cap here, so you can set it for your eyesight specifically. Okay. Battery for the illumination goes under this cap here. You've got 6 different brightness settings, and in between each setting is off. Okay, that way if you're saying 4 and you want to shut it off, you don't have to turn it all the way back to 0. Each one of these dots in between each one of the numbers is an off position. That'll do it for the quick unbox and overview here. We'll take her down to the range now. I'll get some still shots for you guys through the scope so you can see what the reticle looks like to the best of my ability. We'll test those BDC holdover marks down at the range at various distances to see how true they hold. And I'll try to get you guys some low light images of that illuminated reticle. Alright, so we're out at the range here. And yes, I know, as I said earlier, not ideal to have this A2 front sight sticking up right in front of the scope. But the scope is only mounted just for this video and it's coming right back off, as I said. So, we'll get this started shooting here, 50 yards to get our 0 close. Then I'll move out to the shoot and see there where you guys can see real good. To get a 100-yard 0, but as I discussed earlier in the video, to the best of my knowledge, they are indicating a 200-yard 0, which, by the way, if you 0 for 50, it should be about dead on out to 200 roughly, because at 50 yards the bullet is still rising in contrast with the overbore height and whatnot. So for some calibers and some rounds, if you're 0'd for around 50, then you're going to be close to 200 too. Again, it vastly differs depending on the caliber and bullet speed and all that, but we'll get her there at 50, then take some shots at 100, see where it's at, and 200 out here where it's supposed to be 0'd for. And again, so if you're 0'd for 200, you're going to be pretty close to dead on at a 50, 100, and 150 with the 5.56 caliber. So with a 200-yard 0, it should be a little high at 100, maybe a little high at 152. But I mean, we're talking like an inch or two, guys. That's it. This is, you know, battle rifle setup. It's not for like shooting squirrels out there or anything like that. But after we get her 0'd out there at 200 yards, like they seem to be indicating on the listing, as I said, then we'll try out some of those BDC, ballistic drop compensating, or what have you, holdovers. Try to do at least 300-400 yards here and see how close they are for us. Alright, so we'll get started here at 50 yards. Like I said, a 50-yard 0 should be close to a 200-yard 0, I think. It might be off a little bit, but we'll start down here. And sorry, this one's a little hard to see, but I want to use this guy up here first. So we have previous hits in the head and the target on the top right, and then in center mass there as well. So I'm probably going to start out center mass because I have no idea where this is going to hit, just to get it close. Then I'll move to that fresh top left target there for you. And hopefully I got it zoomed in and clarified enough for you guys to be able to see it. But that shoot and see is going to be a lot easier for us to see, as is the gong. You're back with those other ones. Oh, this is a first for me. It's going to look a little goofy because I had to remove the mag to adhere to the monetization policies. But right there, she lays from my accident. In my haste here today, I'm trying to get this hurried up and wrapped up before I either get stormed on here or run out of daylight. And she slipped off the bag, smashed into the ground there. You probably heard it in the video. So I guess this would be a real good test for the scope now. Landed right on freaking concrete there. I'm sure my rifle's all scratched up now. Anyways, we're impacting high right there. Let me make some adjustments on the scope here. There's just 2 shots real close together on that top right target, so I'm going to go for that now until we get it more perfected here. Then I'll swing to the one on the left that's fresh. And actually, I'll tell you what I'll do first to see how well it held 0 after it slammed into the concrete there. It's about 1 inch high and 4 inches off to the right, it looks like, from where it was hitting with that other group of shots there. So I'm going to aim between the target on the left and his neck in that black area there. So they should hit a little higher up and off to the right side of his head there, around close to the ear if it retains 0. Roughly, it's not an exact science. Well, it's pretty much where they're going, right there in his neck there, so it's still, you know, 3-4 inches off to the right like it was. It may not have been high. It could have just been the way I was aiming at that center when I first started out there before I dropped it. Also, I did not have the turrets locked, so it's very possible when it fell that it turned the elevation turret. But anyways, I'm going to give it some clicks to the left to get it lined up here. Again, I'm going to go for that top right target now after my adjustments. Well, from what I can tell, I went a little too far left, so we'll straighten it up some more. And so, other than making a few more adjustments to get it centered there, I'm going to take a few shots down at 100, but I'm not going to change it because I want it to stay zeroed for 50 because, as I said, I believe that should get us close at 200 due to the bullet trajectory. It's still climbing at 50 yards. First 2 shots aiming center mass, second 2 shots aiming for the left target. Alright, so you should be able to see we're about 2 inches high there at 100. Like I said, the bullet's rising. At 150, it's going to be close to about the same, but by 200, it's on its downward arc. So it should be close to zeroed at 200 right now. So let's go ahead and reach out there and find out. But we'll go ahead and send some. I'm going to aim dead center at 200. Now, it may be off an inch or two or a little more, but it should be close enough to hit the plate, I'm thinking. Again, that's just me thinking. So I'll go ahead and aim center on this plate at 200 yards here and see what happens. Wow, yeah, dead on. It's just maybe an inch high of where I was aiming, and it's an inch off to the left. So like I said, some fine tuning needed. Both those shots hit the same freaking spot. So I'm going to give it a little tweak to the right, bring it right 1 inch. That way it's centered on the plate. But I'm going to move this thing out here to further distances now and try out the holdover marks. And I guess for that matter, I should bring it down an inch as well, since it's an inch high currently at 200. That way those BDC holdover marks will ideally work correctly. And again, as stated earlier, that's going to be dependent on the load you use. Generally, the BDC reticles, when they're tuned for 5.56, it's generally for a 55 or 62 grain bullet. But it just depends, and also your barrel length affects it as well. You know, you're going to get higher velocity out of an 18 or a 20-inch barrel than a 16-inch barrel. So it just gets you close, but you might have to experiment, you know, further out there, you know, 400 yards, for example. It might be off by an inch or two, depending on, you know, what load you're using and what your barrel length is and whatnot. But they're just designed to get you close enough to hit a man-sized target out there. This is the ammo I'm using, by the way. Winchester 5.56 M193. It's a 55 grain full metal jacket. I was trying to see if this gives any trajectory on it. It does not. So I just went ahead and moved it out to 400 yards there. It looks a lot brighter on the camera than it actually is out here. I'm like losing light. And I still got to get some screenshots through the scope for you guys. I probably would have showed it in the video by now, but I got to get those before it gets too dark. That way they look right. Field of view at 100 yards on 1x magnification as shown here is 116 feet. Then field of view at 100 yards as shown here again on 6x magnification, 19 feet. Here's 200 yards next to a wooden pallet on 1x magnification. The same 200 yards in wooden pallet on 6x magnification. And then here's with the red dot illuminated just to show you can see it in the daylight, no problem. The red ring you see around the image, you do not see that when looking through it with your eye. It's just because I'm trying to get a picture of it for you guys with the camera. Also, the image fills the entire eyepiece It does not have these black rings around it as you're seeing here through the camera either. Also, it looks even more clear and crisp in person than it does through the camera here, if you can believe that. Real impressed with the clarity of this optic. And then here's 400 yards on 1x magnification. And then 400 yards on the maximum 6x magnification. So that's pretty much what I was looking at there while I'm taking these 400 yard shots. And I'm going to get you guys zoomed in on this reticle a little more. The size you see here in comparison to that 16-inch gong with those ballistic drop marks there. And I was using the second hash mark down for 400 yards. That size relative to the 16-inch gong is pretty much about what I was seeing as well. So I just went ahead and moved it out 400 yards there. That's the other thing too, going from 200 to 300 with a 5.56, it's only a few inches of drop. So, I mean, it's not much difference from going from 200 to 300 yards. So we went ahead and got out to 400 yards. I'll look up the trajectory for you, but I think out there at 400 yards, you're getting, even with a 200 yard zero, I think you're still getting like 15, 20 inch drop or more, something like that. It's considerable. So you're talking only a few inches drop from 200 to 300 yards, but you're talking quite a bit from 200 to 400. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. So I'm going to put the appropriate BDC mark dead center on that plate, and we'll see what happens. I'll have an explanation for you in just a moment as to why all those were grouping high right. So basically when I started shooting in this video, I was actually using this 223 ammo here because I knew it was going to be close enough for 50, 100, and 200 yards to 5.56 for me to get it zeroed. However, I forgot to perfect the zero on 5.56, so when I switched to 5.56 to shoot out here at 400 yards, that's why it threw my point of impact off. You switch ammo, you're always going to have a point of impact change. Sometimes it's going to be high, low, left, right, doesn't matter. So that's why it was shooting high right, because I went from 223 to 5.56. So after discovering that, I corrected to zero for those last three shots there. Oh, but you factor that in with the fact that this thing smashed into the freaking concrete and it held zero, and even me adjusting it up, down, left, right after it smashed into the concrete and it's holding zero for us. You know, I have nothing but positive things to say about this scope. Even damage resistance was pretty good. We got a little scuff mark there from where it slammed in the ground. You know, this is like plastic rubber. None of these caps broke when it fell. And there's some light scuff marks you should be able to see there from where it fell. But it didn't even like take any big chunks of metal out or really do hardly any damage to the scope. And she held zero and is still working up, down, left, right adjustments after slamming in the concrete there. So what else can you say? I mean, great scope, especially for the price. That was completely unintentional. I don't like messing my stuff up and scratching it up and whatnot, so that was not planned at all, but it ended up showing us what a great scope that is. And those BDC marks, like I said, they work pretty well for us there too. So also, guys, the clarity in this scope was fantastic all day at all ranges. Perfectly clear and crisp image for me, perfectly clear and crisp reticle as well. Smashing into the ground there, still working, and the BDC marks line up as it's supposed to. Seems to be a true 1X down on 1X, seems to be a true 6X on 6X. I have no complaints. This thing did everything I could ask and more. So again, there'll be a link in the description if you want to go check it out. If you want to get any of the other products you see me use in my videos, like my shooting bag here, paper targets, steel targets, and more, links in the description as well for all of that. Appreciate you all for watching, and I hope to catch you on the next one. Okay, I'm not getting a very good focus on this. It's always more difficult when it gets dark out here and the image isn't doing much better, but you can see the center dot there illuminated, and that is on the lowest setting. So yeah, okay, turn it up to all the way, as you can see there. So you can see that during the day against a dark background, and now that it's almost completely dark out here, the lowest setting there is what you want. And that's what these illuminated reticles and the illuminated dots are for. It's for low light conditions, or if you're aiming at a real dark target or a black target, you know, you'll be able to see that center dot because you can change the color of it and light it up.